China wants to dominate space, and South America is crucial to making China a space power. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. China dreams big. So big, in fact, that the entire Earth can't contain it. It's a space dream that reaches the moon and beyond. They want to make a space empire. It's hard not to see them as villains when they have literally the same plan as Frieza. What is this, Dragon Ball Xi? Anyway, Chinese leader Xi Jinping wants to make China into a space power. Or shall I say a hegemon? Get it? Hegemon. That's very sophisticated. Maybe it went over your head. Speaking of things over your head, space. Space infrastructure is important for China, especially satellites. Satellites are vital for things like monitoring the environment, providing navigation, and scientific advancement. They can also be used for national security, like missile guidance, and of course, to spy on other countries. A Chinese Communist Party white paper claims that China's space programs are for peaceful purposes. But it also says that the space industry is a critical element of the overall national strategy. In other words, China's space power ambition is that China reigns supreme over the rest of the world. They're basically saying, we want peace and we'll kill as many people as we need to get it. This poses a huge risk for other countries, basically for any country that doesn't want to lose to China in a war. China's main so-called civilian space agency, the China National Space Administration, is completely beholden to the military, more specifically to the PLA Strategic Support Force. That's the military branch that calls the shots for space, cyber, and electronic warfare. That's true of every civilian sector thanks to China's national intelligence law. It also means that all civilian technologies can be used for the military if the military wants. Theoretically, even Furbies. I don't know how Furbies can be used for the Chinese military, but I'm sure China will find a way. China has been ramping up its space program over the past decade, especially with launching satellites. Lots of satellites. In just 5 years, China has deployed more than 260 imaging satellites and about 50 navigation satellites. Boy, that sure is a lot of peace they're launching. Don't you feel safe knowing that all that Chinese peace is up there right now? But in order to get the most use out of these satellites, China needs more ground stations. They're essential for keeping track of each satellite's status, determining its real-time location, and transferring data. Ground stations are essentially the brain of the entire satellite network. One region with a major Chinese ground station presence is South America. South America is directly opposite on the globe to China, and so China needs bases there to cover the southern hemisphere as satellites pass over in orbit. So why not intertwine space cooperation with infrastructure already built by China's Belt and Road Initiative? Or just build them in Antarctica. Sounds like a joke, but China is trying to take over Antarctica too. We did a whole podcast on that. Between this and space, I'd warn Aquaman that the CCP is coming for Atlantis next. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, ground stations in South America are also an integral part of China's growing overseas footprint. I'll explain after the break. Welcome back. China sees space infrastructure as an important industry that can contribute to China's growth. It's also critical for winning wars through intelligence gathering and coordination with military hardware. Not to mention having somewhere to go when Chinese pollution ruins the planet. A lot of South American countries are eager for money, so they're more than happy to allow China to use ground stations. So far, we know that China has been operating in Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Venezuela, Bolivia, and Ecuador. As you can imagine, Chinese ground stations in South America are raising a lot of concerns. Actually, any type of Chinese station in another country is usually enough to raise concern, whether it be for space or policing. Chinese stations are like moles. As soon as you find a new one, you want to check into that immediately. One project that has sparked international attention is the Espacio Lejano ground station in Neuquén, Argentina. The $50 million site has been shrouded in controversy since 2012, when Argentina leased nearly 500 acres of land to China for space construction. There are a lot of problems with the deal that Argentina made. For one, it doesn't specify the purpose of China's technology and data collection. China also does not pay taxes on it, or give Argentina control over what goes on there, or even allow locals to work there. Argentina sold out its people all in the name of making some of that sweet China money? I cannot believe that they would do exactly what every other country keeps doing. The contract between Argentina and China explicitly stipulates that Argentina not interfere or interrupt activities carried out at the station. Collectively, these clauses significantly limit Argentina's sovereign rights and prospective economic benefits associated with the space station operated by a foreign military that uses technology with unknown application. That doesn't sound suspicious. Theoretically, Argentine officials did try to set up a requirement for the station to have only civilian uses without hidden agendas, but there's a catch. Since coming online 5 years later, Espacio Lejano has been administered with little to no oversight from the Argentine government. Argentina says it's monitoring radio emissions from the station, but it's very easy for China to hide data or encrypt channels. Yeah, who would have thought the country launching hundreds of spy satellites for peace, remember, would be hiding their data? The U.S. government is also worried about the station. That's because it's managed by a group that reports to the PLA's Strategic Support Force. This only makes people more suspicious that the Chinese military is involved, especially when locals reported seeing Chinese military officials in the area. Maybe it was just a coincidence. They were probably just on vacation, in full military uniforms, at a Chinese satellite station. To relax. Stop being so suspicious, America. U.S. Admiral Craig Fowler, then commander of the U.S. Southern Command, testified to the House Armed Services Committee in 2019, warning that Beijing could be in violation of the terms of its agreements with Argentina to only conduct civilian activities, and may have the ability to monitor and potentially target U.S. allied and partner space activities. I mean, it's really not a maybe. And other Chinese ground stations in South America don't even bother being discreet about working with the Chinese military, like the one in Venezuela. Not only has China helped build Venezuela's digital authoritarianism, but it's also helped Venezuela's space programs. This dates back to at least 2005, when Venezuela asked China Great Wall Industry Corporation to develop the country's first satellite. The deal also included construction of the El Sombrero ground station in Venezuela, and it sits right within the Capitan Manuel Rios Air Base. There's no way China and Venezuela's militaries are not cooperating. Thinking they're not would be like seeing two people making out and saying they're just practicing CPR. It's already suspicious that the China Great Wall Industry Corporation is there in the first place. The corporation is a subsidiary of China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. That's a state-owned defense contractor that produces space launch vehicles and missile systems. That just screams military. In fact, it's because of the latter's links to the Chinese military that then President Donald Trump signed an executive order restricting U.S. investment to it. Considering other things Trump invested in, they have to be real bad for him to not do business with them. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you'd know that it should be common sense not to trust China to provide sensitive equipment. The Santiago satellite station in the Andes Mountains in Chile is an example of this. It's operated by the Swedish Space Corporation, or SSC. It's a space services provider, which means it leases its facilities to international partners. Those include NASA and the European Space Agency. Before the station was sold to SSC, Beijing leased equipment and built space facilities at the Santiago station. But it turns out you can't trust Chinese equipment, and not just for the usual reasons you shouldn't trust things built in China. The Swedish Defense Research Agency found that China's access to antenna at another SSC ground station in northern Sweden could be serving the Chinese military. That station in northern Sweden, officially known as the China Remote Sensing Satellite North Polar Ground Station, was China's first overseas land satellite receiving station. Swedish Defense Research Agency researchers allege that China could be using the station, which relays images of the Arctic regions, to complement military intelligence or provide additional military satellite surveillance should Chinese military satellites be disabled in a time of war. That's an absurd allegation. What do they mean they could be doing that? They absolutely are. That's why SSC announced that it would not renew contracts with China in Sweden or in locations like the Santiago station in Chile. This is why getting in bed with China for any technologically sensitive deal isn't a good idea in the first place. Because in the end, the CCP will use anything as a weapon to achieve their goal of bringing peace to space, no matter how many people they have to kill first. And China Uncensored would not be possible without support from viewers like you. Our main source of support is directly from viewers who contribute to us through the crowdfunding website Patreon. Those are the fans I call the China Uncensored 50 Cent Army, who join us in the fight against the Chinese Communist Party. And as a thank you to them, I respond to their questions. Today's question comes from Thomas Graham. What does gun ownership look like in China? Good question, Thomas. There is no gun ownership in China. Besides a few extremely rare exceptions, civilians can't have guns at all. Makes sense, Mao Zedong famously said, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Therefore, the first thing Mao did when he got into power was take away everyone's guns. I mean, do you really think a brutal dictatorship like the CCP would still be in power if average citizens had guns and knew how to use them? Check out the episode I did on this topic many years ago called "This is Why They Don't Allow Guns in China." That video, unsurprisingly, has been demonetized by YouTube, which is why your support on Patreon is so important. So to everyone watching, be like Thomas and support us through Patreon with as little as $1 per episode. As a perk, I'll answer some of your questions on the show. Link is below. China Uncensored would not exist without your support. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.